Hi, I'm Annie Botticelli, and this is the Storyteller Forecast for Aquarius for May 2015. Go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, or click on the link below this video to see more about my personal live coaching and to see more about my 28-day virtual coaching program called Shine, both of which are available on a sliding scale, and both of which are intended to help you navigate through the transits of the stars with the most ease and grace and fun possible. While you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. So what's going on in May? To really feel the energies of what's going on with May, we have to consider what we've just stepped from. So on my mind still is, how are those eclipses treating you? You know, these eclipse time in the spring and the fall is such a powerful, dominating, superseding experience that we have, and it affects everyone. Some people it affects directly, some people it affects indirectly, but most people have big news, especially as we had Uranus involved with the lunar eclipse on April 4th. Lots of big news. Many people will have had awful, terrible, devastating news that came to them. Many people will have had the best possible, awesome, amazing news come to them, and sometimes on the same day or in the same period of time, where something is just really bad and something is just really good, and it's all happening at the same time. So as we move into May, we're full of this energy of change, of surprises, of shocks, of new things. And May is a time for rest. May is a time for laying back, kicking back. I have told you for the previous months that the end of February, March, and April are some of your best times for launching things, doing new things, planting seeds. And that once we move into May, we're starting a 5-month, well, May, June, July, August, September, October, 6-month retrograde succession, Mercury retrograde, then Venus retrograde, then Mercury retrograde, where it's going to be more indicated to move backwards. And May is the first month starting this 6-month cycle and this 6-month trend. So we start out the month of May with Mercury opposing Saturn. And this energy that I'm about to talk about is very much a theme for the entire month. Mercury rules your expression, it rules your movement. And Mercury rules Gemini. Gemini and Mercury match, and so anything that has to do with Mercury in general has a strong Gemini energy with it because they're the same. So when you have Mercury in the sign of Gemini, it's even more intensely Gemini. So you've got, and that's a movable, changeable, excitable, social, spiraling, charming energy. It goes in circles, it spirals. So then you've got Saturn coming and opposing it. We know Saturn is an opposition. Opposing is a 180-degree angle, which is something that is a challenging, like a point of contention type of energy. And then Saturn is like an authority figure, or something stern, or something hard, or something like an obstacle. So when you have this free moving, happy, circling energy, and then you have Saturn come and go, ah. I talk about I do a write-up for each month before the month so that you have written down dates besides just the horoscopes of things that you can look out for on certain periods of time in the general tone for the month. And you get this free when you sign up for my free email newsletter. But in any case, I'm calling the theme the Twins Dominate because the twins are the symbol for Gemini, and there's just so much Gemini activity this month. And there's this theme of like these twins, which are all Gemini. You know, they're mischievous, they're fun-loving, they're clever, they're fast-moving and thinking and acting, and they're just kind of going around with their little things that they do, these twins. And then the dad comes in and says, oh no you don't, and takes them and grounds them. You know, this is the energy of this month, where there's just all of this sparkling energy and movement, and that will be true. You will have movement and you will go places and do things, and things are going on. But there's this strong theme of stern dad Saturn coming in and saying, oh no you don't. There's only so far you can go, so much you can do. But in some ways, this is positive. You know, I'm forever focusing on what is positive about something that can look negative or can be challenging. And it's always there. If you look for it, it's always there, and I will find it. And where I see this as being helpful, why antagonism or contrary forces would be helpful, is to bring balance. So when you have a month full of so much Gemini energy, it can spin out of control. It can be driven to distraction. It can be all over the place. It can be very debilitating to have so many options and so much change and so much movement so fast. So when you have these opposing forces, like Mercury going retrograde later in the month, which we'll talk about, like a bunch of squares with Neptune at the end of the month, and two oppositions, one with Mercury, one with Mars, towards the beginning and middle of the month, there's this energy that just wants to spin out, and these opposing forces bringing confusion, bringing stops at the pass. So there's going to be all that, but focus on how it is helpful. So in the case of the twins, this is helpful because the twins can get scattered, right, all out of control. And when they're physically limited, like if they're grounded to their rooms, their mind power gets more focused because they're trying to figure out how they're going to have fun anyway, how they can get out of their room, how they can trick their dad, all of these things. And this is the position you're in. So from a place of stillness, a place of rest, a place of non-movement, a place of quiet, you will be able to create solutions or conceive of solutions to things that have been a problem for a while or that are currently a problem, a pattern of problems. And you'll also be able to rest. That pace that was the end of February, March, and April of change and activity and seed planting, that's not intended to be kept up all the time. That is intended for short spurts, which is very much the energy of spring, very much the energy of Aries, short spurts. Then the Taurus energy started to take us into grounding. If this were a garden, we'd say that Aries would be the seed planting, and then Taurus would be the watering, the steadfast, focused, grounded watering, making sure the birds don't eat the seeds, just very persistent and focused. And then the Gemini energy is where we start to have the growth and the movement that comes in the garden. Okay, things are growing, things are interested in the things growing. It's just a very busy time. So once we've got this Mercury opposing Saturn right at the beginning of the month, it's telling us, okay, things are starting to spin, but let's use that energy wisely. Let's be practical with that energy. Also on May 3rd, I might have said March earlier, but I didn't mean that. It's May 3rd. May 3rd is the Mercury in Gemini opposing Saturn in Sag. May 3rd is the full moon in Scorpio. So at the same time as we have this stopping stern energy for the twins, we have the full moon in Scorpio. And full moons are always emotional in some way. Sometimes it's very positive emotional, sometimes it's very negative emotional, but emotional nonetheless. And when you have a full moon in a water sign like Scorpio, there's always more emotions that go with this time. So this is a period of time where it's very, very obvious the energy of the month is slow down and feel, slow down, go backwards, stillness, quiet. May 15th, I keep wanting to say Mars because, or March, because Mars is involved with so many of these things, and for whatever reason Mars keeps making me think March. So May 15th we have Mars opposing Saturn. So May 3rd we had Mercury opposing Saturn. Now we have Mars and Gemini opposing Saturn, and this is that energy again. Mars is movement and forward movement. It rules Aries. It rules this projectile energy of just let's get this stuff done. And here's Saturn again saying, oh no you don't. And that is continuing. Right after that, we have the new moon in Taurus. May 17th or May 18th, depending on where you are, will be the new moon in Taurus. In general, this is a good time for setting your intentions, for making your new moon wishes, especially around things Taurian, like financial security, like material things, like money in general, and also anything related to earth consciousness. It's good to make wishes about things like that. So we've got this new moon energy happening, but we've got the opposing forces right before, and then between May 18th and May 19th, we have Mercury going retrograde. And we know the days around when Mercury goes retrograde, it's even more haywire. So lots of chaotic energy, lots of backward movement. And because Mercury is going retrograde in the sign that it rules, which is Gemini, it's even more so the way that it is. Okay, so I'm telling you a lot of good things to not do I mean, a lot of things that are good to not do, like don't launch things, don't plan too many things unless you're flexible with your plans. Know that things are going to change. Allow for the contrary forces to bring balance. We want to do all these things. It's not good to be making lots of plans that are just very meticulous and have to be exactly that way, because things are going to shift. But what it is good to do when Mercury is retrograde, and you can make a note of this for all Mercury retrogrades, it's wonderful to watch your speed, to be aware of yourself while driving or moving in a vehicle. It is wonderful to get car or vehicle maintenance. Check into that weird clicking thing your car is doing, you know. It's a fantastic time to back up your phones and other devices. Definitely want to do that if you are walking around with precious things, important things on your devices, and it's not backed up. You need to check into that. Also, device security, topics like that. Really good to spend time doing that. And when you're resting, you can do that. Specifically for Aquarius, a lot of this energy is going to be taking place in the 4th house. Now, Gemini rules the solar 5th house for Aquarius, but the way that it's lined up, most of you are going to experience, well, all of you will have some experience of Mercury retrograde in the 4th house, which means going back over home things, family things, your roots, your ancestry, old psychological problems that keep resurfacing in the form of different stories in your life. I envision for this time for Aquarius where maybe this will be the exact scene, maybe it will be a different version of this scene, but where you go back to your family home and everybody is sitting, some people are watching TV, people are relaxing, some people are playing cards, some people are on their phones, food is being made, you're going back through some old boxes, the same old things that come up with your parents, relatives, or siblings are there, those are annoying, the same wonderful things that you love about being home, that smell that your house has, you know, how comfortable that blanket that your mom puts on your bed. You know, my mom, when I would come home, would always put my unicorn blanket on my bed, and you know, I'm not going to say how old I am, but she still does this, and it's adorable, but it's comforting. So whenever I go in the house, there's this unicorn comforter that's there, and that's something that she does. But that's like very, very much retrograde in the 4th house, and this is very specific to Aquarius because some or all of the retrograde is going to take place for early, middle, and late Aquarius in this 4th house. We are going back over these things. So visiting, resting, regenerating. People think that Mercury retrograde is not a time to travel. It's a great time to travel. You just have to have some flexibility and some care with your travel plans, buying refundable tickets, buying changeable tickets, spending the extra money to allow for, like when you get home, if something happens and you have to or want to stay later, or if all hell breaks loose and you got to get out of there sooner, you know, you just want to keep your options open. And that is the theme of all the retrogrades. You're trying things on. You're being flexible. Other things that's great to do are to really mind messages that you send people. Make sure your emails, your texts, you're taking the time to send them to the right people, because the chances that you're going to send them to people who not only are not the right people, but who are the worst people to send that particular information to, that is increased. Watch your autocorrect. Watch what your voice to text is saying, because it's going to act up more. If you do have to get a phone during Mercury retrograde, try to do it in a way where you don't have to commit to a contract. We want to avoid buying new things if we can, but at the same time, we know that a lot of things are going to fail during this time and that you're going to have to. So you want to get the warranty. You want to get whatever the best protection is for getting something new if you have to. So Mercury goes retrograde May 18th through June 11th. The shadow period for Mercury retrograde starts May 4th and it runs through at the back end till June 27th. So from May 4th through June 27th is the whole retrograde story. And it's going to be going backwards. If you've been listening to my reports for the previous months, you've heard me say that if you were trying to launch something or do something new, you wanted to do that at the end of February, March, or April, because we're going to start a 6-month period from May through October where Mercury and then Venus, and then Mercury is going to be retrograde, and it's not going to be the time for doing new things. It's going to be the time for trying on things, for reevaluating things, going over things, going back to things that you did before and doing them in a different way, which in some ways might seem new, but if it's something you did before and you're starting to do it again, you're kind of trying it on. Not like your big new website that's going to be your website for the rest of your life. You know, those aren't the things that you want to do when Mercury is in retrograde. Or Venus is in retrograde, because Venus in retrograde is the worst time to launch new business things. That happens July 25th through the first week in September, but its shadow period starts June 22nd. Okay, so you heard me say that Mercury's retrograde goes through June 27th, and you heard me say that Venus is starting its shadow on June 22nd. So there's no period of time in between these transits where everything is completely clear. And this continues because once Venus goes direct on the first week in September, the shadow period ends to the end of September. Then we have the shadow period for Mercury retrograde starting again. So, or Mercury being in retrograde right after that. So you want to, if you're listening to this before May, then you still have March and April to launch your things. You definitely want to do that. Definitely want to do that. Okay, so the last week of May, we've got 3 squares to Neptune. Mars, Mercury, the Sun, making a square, challenging angle to Neptune, the planet of secrets, the planet of things undercover behind the scenes, the planet of obscuring things. And you're not going to have a clear picture of what the heck is going on. So 3 squares with Neptune plus a Mercury retrograde, it is not the time to make big decisions. If you have to make a decision, then you have to make a decision. There's obviously no way around it. But really ask yourself honestly the question, do you really have to make the decision right now? And if you have to, then do it. If there's any way around it, avoid it, because you don't have all the information. And what you decide, you may regret what you decided in an impulse, in a whim, with pieces of information that were not complete, obscured by Neptune square. I just want you to rest and try to not be active. Retrogrades are fantastic times to get good at doing less. And you have this opportunity 3 or 4 times a year with Mercury, you know, so it's like, which is going to be the Mercury retrograde cycle where you get this? Maybe it will be this time. I hope so, because once you do, everything's so much easier. I often use this this visual where if you imagine you're on, you got stranded on a deserted island. Maybe it's also a desert, but no, I'm picturing palm trees, right? So it's a lush. You're stranded on this deserted island, and you build a boat, and you're going to launch to try to get away from the island and get back to civilization. Do you launch your boat when the tide is coming in? No. You launch your boat when the tide is going out. You study the tides, you figure out the cycle, and you launch it when you have the best chance of getting out of there. That right there is exactly why we love astrology, why we use astrology, why you need astrology, because it's happening anyway. So if you can get in sync with the rhythms, like this period of time, good time to do stuff, this period of time, good time to do certain things but not other things, your life will be so much easier. And that is the point. We want you to have more peace, more grace, use your energy more efficiently. Right now, most people are walking around doing this amount of work for this amount of gain, right? We're very inefficient with our energy fields. And we wonder why we don't have sustainable energy as our only energy on the planet. How could we? We can't if every individual is not using their energy field sustainably. Their energy dynamics are not sustainable. If we don't have individual sustainability, we're not going to have global sustainability. So if you are a person working on sustainability, know you've got to do it in your own field first. If you don't really care about that, that's fine too. But if you want to stop doing this much work for this much gain, and you want to start doing this much work for this much gain, then pay attention to the rhythms of the stars, because that is where the answer lies. And the retrograde is going to help you tremendously with that. So I can't see what's going on in your personal chart. I'd love to help you by looking at the specifics of your personal chart. You can go to my website, aspiritualspark.com, to see more about my live coaching, to see more about my virtual coaching program. 28-day full moon cycle takes 28 days to start a habit virtual coaching program, both of which are available on a sliding scale, both of which are intended to help you get in the rhythm of the natural way of things instead of butting up against it all the time. While you're there, sign up for my free email newsletter and become part of my community. And I hope you have a wonderful May. I'll see you next month. Bye.